Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books for Kids. Today's video we're taking a look at some writing tips that I have from looking at R.L. Stine's work. And don't be discouraged, if you're a young author out there, I think this video may help you to be inspired to write your first book. Otherwise, let's get into it. Number 1. 4 types of sentence structures. This will be the longest point within the video, and I think this is a good way to look at how to write. Sometimes sentences can be overwhelming, though with R.L. Stine's work, there are one type of sentence that comes up the most, and that's simple sentences. There are compound sentences, which normally will have a comma with some more information added. And then you have complex sentences and compound complex sentences, though we just want to stick to simple sentences for the moment. So I'm just going to show with voice recording 4 examples of sentences before we move on to the next point.
Simple sentence. R.L. Stine writes thrilling horror stories. Compound sentence. R.L. Stine is known for his spooky tales, and many readers eagerly anticipate his new releases. Complex sentence. While R.L. Stine is famous for his Goosebumps series, which has captivated young readers worldwide, he has also successfully ventured into writing adult horror novels. Compound complex sentence. Although R.L. Stine primarily gained fame through his Goosebumps series, which targets a younger audience, he later diversified his writing by exploring various genres, and his adult horror novels have garnered a substantial following.
Number 2. Simple sentences. That other example had me overwhelmed when I was a lot younger. When it comes to writing books, R.L. Stine primarily, and I would say 95% of his books and his works, are kept to simple sentences. As simple as R.L. Stine writes thrilling horror stories. You can have other simple sentences and dialogue when we're talking to people. So within your books, you can keep to some simple sentence structures. And that's one of the big reasons why his books are successful. And if you are writing for middle grade books and younger, simple sentences are a good way to start, and there is a lot of examples to follow from how to write simple sentences. Number 3, compound sentences. Sometimes it can be overwhelming writing compound sentences. You can use a lot of tools such as ChatGPT to help assist with some of the creative process, if you're keeping to requiring some simple prompts. So take this little bit of a prompt for an example, and it looks like a complicated sentence, though when you break down how the sentence is structured, it is a compound sentence. And this is the maximum type of sentence of difficulty that you would see in R.L. Stine's books.
Slappy sneered at R.L. Stine, his wooden lips curling into a malicious grin, as he whispered, "You may think you control the nightmares, Stine, but remember, I'm the one who haunts the dreams long after your books are closed."
Number 4, books. I enjoyed reading Goosebumps. One thing I do find with reading this type of book, it doesn't matter where you start in the series because every single book is a different story that is not necessarily tied in as a sequel. You may have the Night of the Living Dummy books with the sequels that follow, though you can read any book within the series and you're not having different certain spoilers, though when it sticks to the same antagonist, and that's one of the things with this type of genre, the antagonist is on the front cover. It's their story that you're following, and that's what is the biggest seller for this type of franchise. A lot of the books you will read, you may not even remember the main character's name, the protagonist, and that's what makes these sorts of books engaging. At a young age, I enjoyed reading these books. I have picked up a couple recently, and it's taken me back to another time. Number 5, TV show. I wasn't keen on the TV show when I was younger. I did look forward to it. There are a few episodes I didn't mind, though the big thing when you're reading and you're only going off the cover, you form your own imagination. That's one of the beauties of reading. When you have a TV show, suddenly the infinite potential of the imagination has become structured, and sometimes the antagonist is not so menacing, as these examples show. When it's a book, it is so much more engaging. That is why reading today is still important. Number 6, movies.
Hello, Mr. Stine.
Hello, Mr. Black.
Who's that?
He's the new drama teacher.
I enjoyed the first movie. I found it was engaging. I didn't like Jack Black in the role, though R.L. Stine did, so my opinion doesn't matter in this case. And that's one of the other things. You can have your own opinions, but when you have the structured sense of a film, I find, as I said, it takes you away from reading. Though in this case, with the nostalgia and looking out for all the different characters in the film, that was engaging. And that's something to always think about when you do publish books. Have an engaging cover with characters on the front, especially if you're writing for this genre, because it's the antagonist who is the real star. Though, when you're watching the movie, I also pointed out there were characters from the Series 2000, some from the original books, though there were also these other characters that were from the Choose Your Own Adventure books, just like Fifi the dog. Which brings me to my next point. Number 7, Choose Your Own Adventure. R.L. Stine is successful with the Choose Your Own Adventure series. I found one thing I liked with the Choose Your Own Adventure books compared to some traditional books, it doesn't show the different alternative endings and pathways to take. And that's what made these books more engaging. You're reading the book to engage into the story to figure out how to get to the good endings. And there are different good endings and bad endings. Because you're not influenced by pictures, you form the imagination and it draws you in. When you have a structure, like these examples, you don't engage in the book. You're only reading as quick as you can to turn the pages just to get to the conclusions of each of the endings. I found these books were more engaging. Though, if you do want to write certain inspiration, you could always play Dungeons and Dragons. That's Choose Your Own Adventure. It just requires friends. Number 8, the real world. R.L. Stine talks about the real world. You can't have the real world issues drawn into your story. Times will change, and this is where his books are popular even 30 years later. Even he said 30 years prior he would have read them when he was a child. That's where these sorts of books are good, even though technology changes and our world changes with different current affairs. One of the big things with the real world, when you're writing for middle grade stories, there is no divorce or gun violence and other subject matter. And then when you're writing for teenagers, it's a bit opposite. You're touching on some different subject matter. But for the purposes of what he's talking about, you can't let the real world interfere with what you're trying to create. So always think about those sorts of points. What is your target audience? What is the subject matter? Another part of the real world is not to use slang within your stories. There were certain ways that people talk at a certain time, or a running joke that becomes popular, and then it's too cliche. And then when years go past, new readers don't know what you're talking about. So keep slang and some of the real world out of your fiction. Just a suggestion. Number 9, set time. R.L. Stine has a writing routine between 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning. Having that set block every single day allows good habits. You may not have that type of time period. Sometimes, if you're younger and finishing school, sometimes some good habits every day for half an hour, taking notes, writing outlines for a story. Or if you're in a different situation, like co-parenting, you might only have every second weekend with a parent who is engaging in your work. And sometimes it's making those good habits with your loved ones to help guide your way to write a book. And this applies for adults as well. Sometimes we do work in with other people that we have as our loved ones to make the time to have good writing habits. Number 10, the twist.
The beginning, the middle, and the twist.
We all know this classic line from the film, and I love this every time. You might say it gives me goosebumps. Beginning your story with the ending, especially when you're writing in the horror genre, supernatural themes, that's one of the interesting places to start. And sometimes the ending can be different to what you first envision. Though as a suggestion, begin with the ending, and as you're writing the story with however you've outlined your book, there are different ways of adding certain twists and mystery to leave the reader thinking that something else is going to happen. Though sometimes I have seen certain predictability in stories to know how it's going to end. As a cliche example, if someone is writing a Scooby-Doo story, chances at the climax, the monster was human all along. And if that's not deep, I don't know what is. If you do have certain writing questions, you can engage in the community board with certain quizzes and other posts that come out. You can also email me. If you're under the age of 18, please seek parental guidance first. But my email is andrewcasey@hypersanitybooks.com. Hypersanity Books for Kids is a new channel that we've started to reach out to the younger audience because a lot have reached out and we just want to keep things within a more appropriate community, but always seek parental guidance first. If you are inspiring to write for younger readers, this channel may also be for you. Otherwise, we'll see you all next time.